Have you ever had that specific kind of insomnia?
Oh, yeah.
It always seems to hit around, what, 3 a.m.? You're just staring at the ceiling, the house is dead quiet, but your brain is.
hmm
It's running a marathon.
You're trying to control
Every single variable.
Hmm.
Your career, your family's health, the stock market, that weird noise your car's been making.
It's the anxiety of the uncontrollable, right?
Yeah.
We all try to be the CEO of our own little universe, and then we realize we don't even have the controlling shares.
Exactly. We doom scroll. We obsess over luck. We talk about fate like it's this dark cloud. We are obsessed with control. But today, we're going to look at a source that suggests this whole approach, this frantic grasping for the wheel, might just be the most inefficient way to live.
We are taking a deep dive into a sermon called My Times Are in Thy Hand.
A heavy hitter of a text.
It really is. It was delivered by Charles Spurgeon, he was basically the content creator king of the Victorian era. This was back on May 17, 1891.
1891. So we're talking horse-drawn carriages, gas lamps, the whole thing.
Yeah.
But here's what really struck me reading this transcript. It feels shockingly modern.
It really does.
He's talking about stress, about slander. I mean, he doesn't call it cancel culture, but it's the same idea, fear of financial ruin, health scares.
It turns out the Victorians were just as stressed out as we are.
They just had different wallpaper.
Exactly. The externals change, but that internal mechanism of worry, it's exactly the same. And our mission for this deep dive is really to unpack Spurgeon's whole philosophy here. He's basically setting up a cage match.
Between what?
Between two ways of seeing reality. Divine providence on one side and chance on the other.
And this isn't just some, abstract theological debate. He's arguing for a huge psychological shift.
Yeah.
What happens to your brain, to your cortisol levels, when you genuinely believe your life events, your times, are being, I guess, curated by a higher power instead of just bouncing around in total chaos?
It's the difference between seeing life as a series of accidents versus seeing it as a written story. And that shift changes everything.
So let's get into the text. Spurgeon anchors this whole argument on a line from the Bible, Psalm 31. And I think it's crucial to set the scene here. The guy who wrote this, David.
Yeah, he was not on vacation.
Not at all. He wasn't at a wellness retreat in Bali.
Far from it. Context is everything. Spurgeon makes a huge point of this. David describes himself as being forgotten as a dead man.
And like a broken vessel? I mean, that is such a visceral image.
It really is.
It's not just, I'm sad. It's like being shattered. Useless.
Exactly. He's surrounded by slander. People are actively scheming to kill him. He is hitting rock bottom.
And yet, and this is the pivot that makes the whole thing so interesting. Right in the middle of all that, he flips the script. He looks up and says, "Thou art my God."
And Spurgeon just zeroes in on that phrase. He calls it the greatest claim a human can make. He says, a king can claim a kingdom, a millionaire can claim a mountain of silver.
But those are finite. They can be lost. Kingdoms fall.
Right. But Spurgeon's point is, if you can claim the maker of the world, that's infinitely more valuable than just claiming the world itself.
It's like, why own the car when you can have a direct line to the guy who owns the factory?
That's a great way to put it. And that claim, "Thou art my God," that's the foundation for what comes next, which is the title of the whole thing. My times are in thy hand.
Okay, let's stop on times. Because at first I just thought, my lifespan, the ticking clock.
How much time I have left.
Right. But he goes so much wider than that.
He does. He defines times as the entire dynamic of your existence. It's the fluctuations, the seasons. He lists them out. Ups and downs, health and sickness, poverty, wealth.
So it's all the variables, the volatility.
It's the change itself. And his argument is that these fluctuations, the good and the bad, they aren't random glitches. They are, to use his term, under divine appointment.
And this leads us right into the philosophical meat of the whole deep dive. Spurgeon basically puts chance and fate on trial and just destroys them.
He has zero patience for the idea of chance. He calls it a heathenish idea.
And the logic he uses is fascinating because he goes microscopic.
He argues that if God is omnipresent, if he fills all things, then there's literally no physical space left for chance to even exist.
Did you catch the visual he uses? The aphid?
Oh, the creeping of an aphid upon a rosebud.
Yeah.
Yes.
He says the movement of that tiny little bug is just as arranged as a plague marching through a nation.
It's an argument from the micro to the macro. If you let chance rule the little things, you have to let it rule the big things.
Right, because big things are made of little things. If the bolt is loose by chance, the whole plane crashes.
Exactly. So for Spurgeon, it's all or nothing.
So that's chance. Gone. But then he goes after fate. And for a lot of people, I think those feel similar, but he's very careful to distinguish them. Fate sounds so
Cold.
mechanistic. That's the key. He describes fate as blind. It's just a ruthless machine grinding on, crushing everything in its path without any intelligence.
Like a giant gear turning. It doesn't care if your finger is in the way. Right. It's just stoicism without any hope. But he counters this with the image of providence. And the metaphor he uses is, well, it's visually startling. A wheel full of eyes.
Which, let's be honest, sounds like something out of a horror movie.
It is intense, but the meaning is profound. A wheel is movement, events, time, but the eyes, that means it isn't blind. It sees. It's intelligent. It's guided by what he calls a living, loving spirit.
So hard things still happen, but not because some cold machine is turning. They happen because a personality is guiding them.
That's the core shift, and that changes the whole so what of this philosophy. What does this actually do for you on a Tuesday morning?
Right.
It creates nearness.
Yeah.
If your times are in God's hand, then God has to be incredibly close to you. He's not some distant spectator.
I like that part. He gets very domestic with it. He says, God handles your bread and water, blesses your bed and board.
Turns the cosmic into something at your kitchen table. And that intimacy is what leads to the practical stuff, which is where this really shifts into, how do I live this?
Segment 3, the cure for worry. This is the self-help chapter. And he uses that analogy about the steamboats.
The man at the wheel.
Yes. So on these old Victorian steamboats, there was a sign up that said, do not speak to the man at the wheel.
A very practical safety rule.
But Spurgeon applies it to life. He says we are constantly interfering with the captain, with God, because we don't trust him. We're the passengers running up to the bridge screaming, hey, I think we're going too far left.
It's a perfect image of our control freak nature. He says we just confuse ourselves by complaining against the steering. The pilot knows the way. The passenger just sees the water.
So the advice is, sit down. You don't know how to drive the boat.
Which is so hard for us. We're taught to be the masters of our destiny. But Spurgeon says trying to drive the boat when you're not the captain is the root of all anxiety.
He also has this brilliant bit about dealing with guilt. He calls the devil an ancient lawyer.
I really liked that. An ancient lawyer.
It's so good. He says, if the devil, or even just your own inner critic, starts arguing with you about your flaws, don't argue back. You will lose.
Why?
Because he's an ancient lawyer with thousands of years of experience. He will out-argue you every time.
So you don't represent yourself.
Exactly. You lawyer up, you send him to your solicitor, you tell him, if you have anything to say to my advocate. It's such a boss move.
Talk to my lawyer. It just removes the burden of defense from you. You see the pattern, right? You don't steer the boat, you don't argue the case, you delegate.
And then he gets really pragmatic. He asks these blunt, almost funny questions. Did you ever fret a shower down when there was a drought?
Or did you ever make a sixpence by worrying?
It's the ROI of worry. He's looking at the balance sheet and saying, this is a bad investment.
He calls it an unprofitable business. Worry doesn't just fail to solve the problem, it actually makes you unable to act. You burn all your energy fretting about the storm.
And then you're too tired to row the boat when it hits.
You're an energy leak.
So we've covered general worry. But what about other people? Slander, enemies, social anxiety.
Right, which goes back to the original context of the psalm. But Spurgeon applies his core idea here. If your times are in God's hands, then they are, by definition, not in the hands of your critics.
Ooh, I like that. It's almost a spatial argument.
It is. It's geometry. If my life is held here, then the critic over there can't touch it. They can shout, but that's it.
He says, the wicked may gnash their teeth, but they cannot destroy.
Right. Even if you're among lions, he says, no lion can bite if God's angel is there. It's about realizing that people, your boss, your trolls, they don't actually hold the remote control to your life.
That is incredibly freeing. But there's one thing people fear more than public opinion.
The future. And death.
And he tackles this head on. He kind of mocks us for trying to predict the future.
Yeah, he talks about buying a newspaper or going to fortune tellers. He makes a really counterintuitive point. He says, if we were truly wise, we would want the future to be concealed.
Why is that?
Because the knowledge would just crush us. Imagine knowing every sorrow for the next 10 years, all at once, today. You'd be paralyzed. You get the strength for the day, on the day.
That makes sense. But his advice on death, the die daily concept.
This sounds a bit morbid, but it's actually a kind of stoic exercise.
So walk us through it. How does dying daily help you live?
He suggests that every morning, before you leave your room, you should figuratively die. You rehearse taking off the robe of flesh. You imagine leaving the world.
So you basically practice it.
You practice it to make it familiar. If you've mentally died every morning for 20 years, when the actual moment comes, it's not a shock. It's just doing that thing you've practiced, but for real.
Exposure therapy for mortality.
Precisely. It defangs the fear. And he contrasts this with the story of the prophet Elijah.
Oh, the Elijah story is a classic. So he's this major prophet, calls down fire from heaven, super brave. Then the queen, Jezebel, threatens him.
And he just panics.
He runs for his life out into the wilderness. And then when he finally sits down, exhausted, what does he pray for?
He asks God to let him die.
It's absurd. He ran away from death only to ask for death.
And Spurgeon loves that irony. It just shows how irrational our anxiety is. We are terrible judges of what's actually good for us, which, again, reinforces the point. Don't touch the wheel.
You are a bad navigator.
Accept it.
So if we aren't steering and we aren't worrying, what are we doing? Just sitting on a couch?
No. And this is the active side of it. This is the royal exchange.
Okay.
If you give up the worry, you gain the freedom to serve. And he uses a story about Queen Elizabeth I to illustrate this.
Love a good historical anecdote.
So the queen asks a top merchant to go to Holland on royal business. The merchant hesitates. He says, basically, Your Majesty, if I go, my own business will go to ruin.
A valid concern.
Sure. And the queen replies, and this is the key line, if you will see to my business, I will see to your business.
That is a power move.
It is. And the theological application is, if a believer focuses their energy on God's business, God takes on the responsibility of looking after their personal interests.
It's a delegation of labor.
And it transforms you. Spurgeon says it changes you from a slave of anxiety into a priest or a king. All that energy you were wasting on self-preservation, it's now free to be used for a mission.
It's the ultimate job security. You know, he wraps up with one more story about Sir Francis Drake, and this one's about endurance.
The ditch story.
Yeah. So Drake sails around the world, survives massive storms, battles, everything. He finally gets back home to the River Thames, and a storm hits, threatens to sink the ship right there.
In his own backyard.
Right. And his response is just legendary. He says, what? Go around the world safely and then get drowned in a ditch? Never.
It's a logic of continuity. Spurgeon says, if God has helped you for 70 years, if you've survived the whole ocean, he's not going to let you drown in the ditch at the end.
The past track record guarantees future security.
Exactly.
So let's bring this all together. What is the big takeaway here for us today?
I think the aha moment is all about the economy of energy. We spend so much energy trying to be the man at the wheel. We try to predict, to control, to fight. And Spurgeon is just saying, that is a waste. It's inefficient. It's inefficient and it's impossible. The trade-off he offers is surrender control, and in exchange, you get peace. You accept that chance is a myth, and that gives you permission to finally rest.
You can sleep at 3 a.m.
Because someone else is on the night watch.
Towards the end, he says to let this truth dissolve in your mouth like a wafer made with honey until your whole nature is sweetened.
It's a beautiful image. It's not a pill you swallow. It's a flavor that just permeates everything.
But, and we have to mention this, there is a flip side. He doesn't end on a purely fluffy note.
No, he doesn't. And this is the provocative thought we have to leave you with. Spurgeon's warning is that this hand is a reality for everyone, whether you like it or not.
Right. He says if you reject the protection, you are still in God's hands.
But you're in the hands of judgment. The same absolute power that comforts the believer because it guarantees their safety is the same power that should terrify the person who resists it because it guarantees they can't escape.
You can't outrun the hand.
You cannot. It holds everything.
So that's the question we're left with. Is the idea of a higher power controlling every variable of your life, your times, a source of absolute terror? Or is it the ultimate relief?
And that depends entirely on who you think the man at the wheel is.
That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.